G'day. Today's guest is April. She was born as a Christian. She converted to Islam in July 2015 during Ramadan. That was 5 years ago. She is originally from a very small town in South Carolina, and she currently lives in Columbia, SC, with her husband and daughter. April is a special education teacher. She says that Islam has totally changed her life. She is grateful for being guided by God. She says it is truly the best thing she could have ever asked for in her life. Join us as we talk to April, and she also includes a special gift that helped her on her path to Islam.
I can honestly say that I always saw God separate from Jesus. I did not believe that Jesus was ever God. That led me to question other things like, well, who am I praying to? And who is this? Or, it was a lot of confusion for me as a Christian. That I was like so scared. Like at one point I was like, okay, maybe I should just not go. But I went, and when I walked in, it's like the minute I stepped, I wish I could explain this with words, and I'll try my best, but the minute I walked in, stepped my foot into the masjid, it's like I was welcomed with such genuine love. That nervousness it just disappeared. I felt so calm. It was really kind of surreal. I can feel that feeling right now as I'm talking to you. What's better, for me to stay with what I know because it's what I know, or for me to branch out and try something different because it seems to be the truth to me? My parents, and their parents, and how I've talked about it being a chain. I said, this is my opportunity to try and make a change, because I felt in my heart Islam was the truth. If you feel guided, then that's a blessing, but pressure to do it is not the right way. So just believe in God, pray to Him, and He will definitely show you the right way.
Welcome to the show, April.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Peace be upon you too. How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well.
Excellent. Yeah, great. So April's going to share her story about how she converted to Islam. April, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am American. I'm an African American young lady. I am married, and I have a daughter. She's 3 years old. I currently am a teacher, so I thoroughly enjoy working with kids. I enjoy helping others, and just I guess, spending time with my family and friends.
Okay, sounds good. And can you tell us about your life before you accepted Islam? What was your life like?
Sure. Before I accepted Islam, my religion was, I guess I identified with the religious faith that I followed was Christianity. I was born as a Christian. Both of my parents, were. My dad has passed away, but my mom is still alive, and she's a Christian. And I guess I just lived a normal life. Prior to becoming a Muslim, I went through college. I started my career, so I would attend church as I moved to different parts of South Carolina throughout my 20s and after college. So, while I was there, I would look for church families or congregations to become a part of. And I would attend church.
Okay, and so in your early days, did you have any impressions about Islam, or what were your thoughts or feelings about it?
Well, honestly, no. Well, earlier when I was I say in middle school, my mom, she remarried, and so my stepbrother, he had come home. He came to South Carolina from New York, and I remember we were getting dressed to go to church. And I asked him if he was going to church, and he was like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He was like, "I'm a Muslim," and I was like, "Well, what is that?" And he was like, I really cannot remember, you know, what he said, because at that point, I think I just, I was young. I was just like, well, whatever. So I didn't really listen to him, but I just remember him saying I'm a Muslim, and I was like, oh, well, what is that? And when he gave me his answer, I just kind of brushed it off and went on. So that was really my only experience, in my younger days with a Muslim. Um, and I can't say that my time with him, was an extended amount of time, because he did not live in the house with us for very long. Um, but other than that, I mean, all the way up until I was about, was it 2013? 2013. If I came in contact with any Muslims, I did not know about it. It was really in 2014 I began meeting um, a lot of people. And after, just being around them for a while and talking to them, having conversations, being able to relate with them, I later would find out that they were Muslims. And so I was very shocked, because my view of Islam or Muslims was very skewed, I guess, because of the media. So I always viewed Muslims as, like terrorists, or bad people that I probably should not be around. After meeting these people in 2014, I realized that, Muslims are just human beings just like me. The people that I met, we seem to have the same values and morals, you know, and they just seem like normal people. So I was very intrigued by that, and I wanted to learn more about Islam and what their beliefs were, because I found that there was a disconnect between what the media was showing and what I saw on TV, and what was, the people that I actually was able to meet and become friends with.
Okay, and how did you meet these Muslims?
Okay, so it was like one was in Charleston, South Carolina, and there were just a group of girls. We were all in the education field, so that she was a teacher, and so we would like get together, like after school, to go pick up dinner or eat, or we would make dinner for one another, at each other's home. And then one day she was just, talking about an event that happened in her life, and we like I was asking a lot of questions about like things that she was sharing. And then she was like, well, finally, she was like, well, I'm Muslim. And I mean, I can remember this conversation, like this part of it, so vividly in my head, because I sat there and I actually argued with her. I went back and forth with her, like, no, you're not. And she was like, yes, I am. And I was like, no, you're not. And she's like, yes, I am. And I was like, okay, so you're really Muslim. And what intrigued me about her is that she had deep roots into her religious beliefs and practices. And so, um, and due to that, the way she carried herself, the things that she decided not to do that people her age, I guess, were doing, really, I guess, like, touched me or resonated with me, because I realized, like, her parents or whatever she believed in really had to be something very, I guess I can use the word powerful, because she did not, I guess, succumb to the peer pressures to do other things that she knew was wrong. And she basically said that to me when I was like, well, why don't you drink, or why don't you do this? And she was like, well, because my religion tells me not to, and I'm going to follow, the basic rules of what my religion teaches me. The other Muslims that I met, they were like I actually moved back home. And so I met I met one through my job. And then I also um, met others like just out, amongst different friends.
And so you mentioned that you were impressed by the first girl that you talked about. What were some
Yeah.
of the other things, the way they acted, that you noticed that were different to normal people?
Um, I mean, she was just okay. So with most of them, you could tell that they, I guess I could see that they knew why they decided not to do something. And because of that reasoning or that decision, they stood strong in it. Like with one of the guys that I worked with at my job, he was just, describing to me about, or he was sharing with me why he decided not, to, what made him, I guess, convert to Islam or revert to Islam. And he was saying, about, I guess, like the holidays, like Christianity holidays. And he decided, like, okay, this is not, he didn't want, after, well, before becoming Muslim, he said he decided, I don't want to, do this, because he learned about the backgrounds of those holidays. And he's like, this is, excuse me, this is not what I believe in. So, he is like, he researched something, he got an answer, and he stood firm in, I don't believe that this is correct, I'm not gonna do it. So I guess in just by talking to them, with my first friend that I mentioned, she was just very pleasant. She had she was just a overall pleasant person with a beautiful spirit. Like, it was nothing I could never tell you anything bad about her, because she just, every interaction that I seen her have with anyone around us was always in a, modest and positive manner. And the rest of the, I guess, and when I group them all together, I just think about how when we would talk about things, a lot of their views seem to be, or their beliefs, or what was important to them, were the same things that were important to me, as I, at that time, identified myself as a Christian. So, like I said, I just wanted to learn more about Islam after meeting them and getting a chance to know them, even prior to knowing that they were Muslims.
Okay, and so that was 2014 when you met them, and then you converted in 2015. So that was a quick transition there. What were some of the other things that happened that made you think about converting?
So one day I went to, I was in the grocery store, and this was after I was like, listen, I want to know more, about what Islam teaches, because, of my experience with my friends, the people that I had met recently. And I saw a lady in this grocery store. She was shopping, of course, and I approached her and asked her if she was Muslim, and she said yes. And I asked her if she would mind, just sharing with me some things about Islam, because I was interested in knowing more about it. And she she was like, I'm so sorry, she apologized because she said her English was not good, so she did not feel comfortable talking to me about, to try to have, I guess, elaborate conversations with me. And I said, okay, yeah, no, that's no problem. So we went on, and then she came back to me in the store, and she said, she asked for my number so that she may pass it on to someone else who she said would be able to, speak with me about Islam. So later that night, she texted me and asked me if I would be able to attend Friday prayer, but I worked Monday through Friday, so I wasn't able to go. Long story short, she invited me to meet her at the masjid, her along with some other sisters, because they were taking an English course. So I did meet them, and then I had the opportunity to speak with the imam.
Okay. So, did you intend to convert to Islam at that stage, or were you just trying to find information?
At that point, I just wanted to find information. I did not have the intentions of converting to Islam.
Okay. And how did that meeting with the Imam go?
um, that meeting was a very pleasant meeting. He actually, I felt like my time with him was, I guess, an impromptu meeting. So I was already very thankful that he took the time to meet with me, unexpectedly. And he never seemed to rush me or force me to think that I needed to become a Muslim right then. I asked him so many questions, and he took his time to literally answer my questions. He explained, the basic, or the basic, I guess, first teachings of Islam to me. And it really was just a very enlightening meeting. I enjoyed my time with, just speaking with him. And I was I went there, to ask him questions, to learn more about, what Islam teaches. But one particular question that I had in mind was about, Jesus, because I knew as a Christian, I knew that Jesus played a very big role in Christianity, or I guess, with his miracles. And he had a very big role. Christians believe that he is the Son of God. Well, my question that I really wanted him to answer was, what do Muslims believe about Jesus? What is his role, or what did he do, if anything, in Islam, for Islam? So he answered that for me, and it was just speaking with him, I felt like I had found clarity for an answer that I had been seeking an answer to for a very long time. And I say that in the sense of, I can honestly say that I always saw God separate from Jesus. I did not believe that Jesus was ever God, or, I never thought that, even as a Christian. So that led me to, question other things like, well, who am I praying to, and who is this? Or, like, it was a lot of confusion for me as a Christian. So when he explained, Isa, or Jesus' role in Islam, it just made so much sense to me. So after that, I was like, okay, I want to continue, learning more about, Islam. And so I had a very strong support system. I lived in Clemson at this time, and they, even though they have a small masjid, the community is very close, and I had a lot of sisters there who would invite me over and talk to me, you know, about Islam. I was also receiving a lot of was I like booklets that they had at the masjid, so I would read them. um i would meet I would meet probably at least once a week with sisters, you know, to just discuss things or ask more questions. And one thing I do want to share with you is that prior to going to the masjid, I remember I was so like anxious, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna walk in there, I'm not gonna look like them, they're gonna judge me. Oh my, you know, I had so much anxiety that I was like so scared. Like at one point I was like, okay, maybe I should just not go. But I went, and when I walked in, like it's like the minute I stepped, I wish I could explain this with words, and I'll try my best, but the minute I walked in, like stepped my foot into the masjid, it's like I was welcomed with such genuine love. Or, you know, even though I may not have covered, or even though, you know, I did not dress like them, or um I I was welcome into their place of worship with no, you know, no judgment or anything. And it's like the minute I walked in there, all of that anxiety, all of, you know, like that nervousness, just, it's like it just disappeared. I felt so calm. It was really kind of surreal. Like I can feel that feeling right now as I'm talking to you, because when I left there and I went, I guess I was talking to one of my friends, I remember telling her, like, it's almost as if this is where you should be. These are the people that you should be around, because the sense of peace that I had when I, you know, went in there was unexplainable. Well, inexplainable. But I'll stop talking about that. But yes, I just wanted to share that, because, you know, there may be other people who would love to go to a masjid, or maybe they're scared, you know, or anxious like I was. But I promise the experience, and I would pray that their experience would be the same as mine, because, or even better, because I promise you, like, it was definitely one that I will never forget.
That's awesome, April. So, tell me about some of the people you met at the mosque, at the masjid. Was it a very multicultural mosque? Were there people from many nations?
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So, I met people from Lebanon, from Turkey. A lot of the sisters there were from Turkey, because their husbands had come to Clemson University. And so, you know, they came with their husbands. There were sisters from Iran. There are sisters. I met a sister, you know, that were also from here in the United States, but there's sisters from Egypt. Like we had a very or a very diverse population at the Clemson Masjid. We have sisters that were from Nigeria. Um, so I'm trying to remember, you know, all the places. Pakistan, Bangladesh, I guess. Yeah, we have sisters from all over at the masjid in Clemson.
Okay, and you mentioned that you were invited around to people's houses, I guess
Mm-hmm.
for meals, for dinner, and so forth. So, what are some of the things you did when you met up with them?
When I went to meet with them at their homes, they would, oh my gosh, every time they would give you tea and food, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to eat, but they were always just wanting to give you something, as far as like food. But then also we would sit down and they would talk about like I guess, hadiths, like they would talk about hadiths or teachings of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And then too, if I had any questions, between the time or during my journey of learning, then I would be able to ask them. If they didn't know, of course, they would either find out from, someone else, or refer me to a person that they felt could give me the correct answer. So during this time, I was still, learning more, reading more literature, reading more information that I received from the masjid. And I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, I guess just basically, building a type of, sisterhood with them, to where they wanted to make sure that if, I was thinking of, becoming a Muslim, that I'm being led in the right direction.
Okay. And so you were getting a lot of this knowledge from these ladies and going to the mosque and visiting them at their houses. Did you attend any formal classes at the masjid or at the Islamic Center?
At that time, I did not attend any classes. I don't really remember classes that I did not attend. I don't want to say that there weren't any, but my work schedule was a little bit hectic at that time. So maybe they did have some, but I was at work when the classes were taking place. Most of my learning did take place with the sisters. And then, I'm even trying to think, I would say a lot of my learning took place. I had one sister that was very, very close to me. Well, I had a few, but this one I would go to her house like a lot. And she's from Turkey, and a lot of things that I know right now came from, just spending time with her and her teaching me different things. I also had other sisters that would meet with me, and they too would teach me things or give me books to read that would help.
Okay. And did you use the internet much to do your research?
I did not use the internet very much. I may have, Googled the meaning of certain things, but I will say that I did not use the internet very much, other than listening. Oh, okay. So this was a very big thing too for me. I almost forgot about it. One day, one of the sisters that I'm talking about, she provided me with some CDs to listen to. She's like, while you're in your car, just listen to these CDs, And one of them was The Purpose of Life by, I don't want to say the wrong person, but
Khalid, Yasin?
yes. So I had this CD, The Purpose of Life, and I would listen to it in my car. My drives were not very long, so it took, over a certain amount of days for me to finally get through the entire thing. But I will never forget, during this time, as I was driving to work one day, I was listening, and he was talking about how he was talking about how everyone basically is a Muslim, and even a child growing in its mother's womb is a Muslim, because, we submit, because that child is submitting to the will of Allah. And and then he went on to say, even Jesus was a Muslim, because he was doing what he was submitting to the will of Allah. He did what Allah wanted him to do. And I just remember breaking down crying in my car, like as I'm driving, because that just touched me so much. Like I felt for a while like I had been given, or I guess I felt I had been led astray or led away from the true message, of what Allah or God truly wants us to know. And just by him, the entire message or lecture was a great message. To this day, I still listen to it. But just by him taking, Jesus, who, of course, as a Christian, that's who you mainly hear about, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. So to hear that this person who I have held with high regard, he too was a Muslim. I was like, it's no other way that, you could choose a different religion. So, or different path. Like this has to be the truth, So, I felt like at that point, I was like, you know what? I did have an experience where I went to a church event with my family. And I remember saying, after I left that church, I was like, I will not go back into a church again. Which I have. I will say that I have, because I have lost family members, that passed away. So to attend their funerals, I would go to the church. But other than, I remember looking at my sister and telling her, like, we have to get out of here. Like, I could, because the more that I sat in there and I listened to things, I was like, this is just not making sense to me. Like, I have got to, I guess get out. But it was like, I say that to say, it was at that point, after listening to The Purpose of Life, that message truly changed my life. And I knew, after listening to it, that I had, I was on the right track of, finding a religion that matched my beliefs.
Yeah, that's a great talk and a great video, that one. I remember watching it when I first converted to Islam. That's how old it is, and that's how good it is. It's still going around now. So I will try to put that a link to that in the show notes if anyone is interested in listening to it. It's a very good speech, and I believe he converted from Christianity as well, if I can remember rightly.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Okay, so at this time, this would have, this time when you're learning about Islam and you're thinking, about the religion, it must have been a very exciting time for you. But were you having any doubts still at that time, questions that you didn't have answers for, or things that were, stopping you from converting?
As far as doubts, I would say the only one thing that, kept playing in my head was like, April, you grew up as a Christian. How can you leave, what you know, in order to, branch out onto a different path? But each time that I had those types of thoughts, I would remember, like, but this makes much more sense. These beliefs make much more sense to me. Like, this seems more real to me than or more true. I guess, it has more of a truth to it for me than, what I have been taught as as a Christian. So at that point, because I would be the only, I kept thinking I would be the only Muslim in my family. How am I gonna do this? Like, I'm having to learn to I'm having to learn to believe and practice my beliefs in a totally different manner. So those are the types of things that I would think about, I guess, that would bring any type of doubt. But at the end of the day, once once I thought about it, and really analyzed the situation, I was like, what's better for me to stay with what I know because it's what I know, or for me to branch out and try something different, because it seems to be the truth to me. I will say this because I think it's a very important point. During that time and during these times where I would have these thoughts, I kept telling myself, well, who's to say that, I told myself, well, I'm a Christian because my mom's parents were Christians, or like I was like, it probably went back generations, for I don't know, but who's to say that at one point my ancestors were not Muslims. So I was like, this is something that's just being passed along and passed along and passed along till now. Here I am, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm challenging what has been taught to me over the last, I would say I was about 29, I think, at this time. So for the last 29 years. So I kept telling myself, well, just because that was passed down to them, that doesn't mean that it's right. If I find that this is what my heart is telling me is true, and this is where God has led me, then I'm going to step out on that, branch. I'm going to step out on faith and just say, okay, Allah, just do what you know is best for me. And if I could just go back for one moment to the meeting that I had with the imam, at the end of that meeting, he gave me something very, very powerful. And to this day, I still use this prayer. And of course, at that time, I did not know how to pray in Arabic. But he said, April, he told me, he said, no matter how, he said, just how you know to pray now, just pray to God. Just pray to God and ask him to guide you. And if Islam is for you, then guide you to it. And if Islam is not for you, then save you from it. So that's what I did. That's what I did. So when those types of thoughts would come into my head, I would remember what he shared with me. And at the end of the day, I'm like, Allah, it's your will. Just allow me to accept your will and be okay with it. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, April.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, with a lot of converts, what they do is before they convert, they sort of test out the religion by trying to do some of the rituals, for example, like praying or fasting, and, praying to God. Did you do any of that before you converted?
I did try the fasting because as I stated, when I took my Shahada, it was during Ramadan. It was toward the end, but it was during Ramadan. And so I did fast. I did try to fast. I could not fast the entire day because, of course, that was my first time ever even doing anything, to that extent, with no food or no water. So I did try that Ramadan. And I used advice from the sisters that I was meeting with, and they said, start with maybe half a day, and then try to increase it if you can. But basically they were like, Allah's not going to make anything too difficult for you, so he doesn't want you to fall ill or get sick or harm yourself. So they actually guided me on how, since it's my first time trying this, to just take it in increments.
Yeah, so you've probably done 4 or 5 Ramadans.
Right.
Do you feel like it's easy now?
Yes, alhamdulillah. It's much, much better. The Ramadan after, is this correct? The Ramadan after, I'm trying to think about the Ramadan after I took my Shahada. The Ramadan right after, so that was 2015. Okay, yeah, the Ramadan 2016, I was actually pregnant with my daughter, which is, I know it sounds like a fast, a short time, but like it's like literally I took my Shahada. I like months later I got married, and then within just a month of being married, I found out I was having my daughter. So that's how that happened so quickly. But I'm trying to think. It was, so I wasn't able to fast my, that's I guess the first full Ramadan because I was pregnant with my daughter, and then that second one I was not a, what I wasn't able to fast as I would have liked because I was, nurturing my daughter. Um, but so I've had, I guess, three good ones, right? Yes, where I fasted. Yes, so I've had three good Ramadans where I've now fasted. And it's much, much better. It's much easier. This past Ramadan that just ended, it was a very good one, and I talked to my husband about it, and I think it's because we were able to be at home. I know I probably should not say that, but you're away from distractions, you're able to do more to worship Allah during that time. And I just really enjoyed that this last Ramadan. Like, it was a really good one for me.
And can you share, how it feels to fast and the struggle and the joy of breaking your fast and so forth?
Yes, so the first few days of Ramadan, it's more difficult than the remainder, I will say, for me. But it's almost as if after a few days, excuse me, you wake up, you eat. There are mornings that I could not even eat anything. Like, I'm trying to force myself to eat because I'm like, I know I won't be able to eat until, 16 hours from now. So, but then it's like when it was time to pray, as I'm making wudu to pray, it's like I would get this energy even after, doing my prayer. It's like I would have this energy from, I don't know, energy from out of nowhere, I guess I should say, to make you understand what I mean. But it's like I would have this energy, and it's like the hunger pains would go away. So each time that I felt like it was prayer time, that was like food for me, because after that, I would not feel this hunger pain anymore. Or the thirst. My biggest thing was being able to, like, I felt like I was always thirsty, my first Ramadan, where I did fast the entire time. But that would help me by praying. And then by the time it's time to break fast, like, it's good to break fast. I enjoy breaking fast with my family. But when it's also time, like, you feel happy, like, oh my gosh, you feel like you've accomplished. Like, the thing that I enjoy most about fasting is that connection that you feel with God, with Allah, knowing that He will help you through every single thing, just as He helped me through making it through the day, or making it through 16 hours where I still had to work. I still had to care for my daughter. I still had to, clean or, help prepare food for my family. He still provided me with what I needed. So that connection to Him, and that, I guess, affirmation that he's always going to give me what I need. All I have to do is trust him and count on him, call on him, ask him, or tell him. That's all I have to do. So that is what I really, 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 really enjoy most about the fasting. But I was going to say that a lot of times when it was time for us to break our fast, we would eat our dates, and drink water or milk or tea or something. But we would be like, after you eat, your dates or milk, you don't even feel hungry anymore, like you want to eat. I don't know if you have that experience, but that's what my husband and I would always say. But of course, we did make ourselves eat something.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I feel the same way as well about the happiness of breaking the fast, and it's a really amazing time. Now, I want to ask a few questions about your day of conversion, but before we go into that, I want to talk about the period before you converted, maybe the few weeks or a month before you converted. So in that time, what were you thinking then, and what was making you start to think to convert to Islam?
Well, at that point, I felt like, mostly all of my answers had been answered. I felt like um, I didn't have a reason to not, you know, I felt like I said with the video, with the CD that I listened to, The Purpose of Life. After listening to that, I had already felt like, you know what, this is my truth. I'm stepping out. Like, I felt like I was really led to Islam. And I still continued to pray. And even after those prayers, I continued to feel like I was being led to it rather than, I guess, led away from it. And then two, one, I was thinking about my future. I thought, honestly, I didn't know when I would have kids, but I said, you know what? This is my chance to kind of break, the cycle of passing down this Christianity beliefs, that I shared with you, that I felt happened to my parents, and their parents, and how I've talked about it being a chain. I said, this is my opportunity to try and make a change, because I felt in my heart Islam was the truth. So I knew that I did not want I wanted for my children what I had found, I didn't have any children at the time, but for my unborn children. So I I made that choice. Like, Islam is Islam is the religion, for me. Islam is the way of life for me, because I want to be able to pass this down to my children, to lead them on the path, the straight path of righteousness, and, do my due diligence to make sure that they have access, to the truth. I feel like I did not have access to the truth. And I say that with quotation marks, but the truth, until I was 29 years old, So, so that was the month, I guess leading up to it. The day of, I was, talking to my sister, the sister that I said I was, I would go to her house almost weekly. And I was like, I am just at the point, like, it's, it's Ramadan. I just feel, I feel like it's just time. I don't want to let any more time, go by when I feel that my heart, is that I'm truly being guided towards Islam. It's time for me to, began living my life, as a Muslim. So we went to the masjid, and lots of people were there. Like, I don't know, it was funny to me because the little kids, during Ramadan, the masjid is very full. And the little kids were running around or something. And then I remember sitting there with the sisters, and one of the little kids came up and was like, is she Muslim yet? Or the little kids were whispering things like, she's about to become a Muslim or something. But when it was time, the imam made he said, there's a sister who would like to take her shahada. They gave me a mic. I was surrounded by the sisters who were, really close with me during this time, especially the one, her name is Kisban, and I'm going to say her name, but her name is Kisban, and she was standing right there with me. And, he just told me what to do, like repeat after him. And so I repeated my shahada. And after that, I just remember she was crying, I was crying. All the other sisters were, tearing up and coming to hug me. And then they all came up, saying, welcome to Islam, assalamu alaikum, giving their greeting me. And I would never forget, because when looked at me, she was like, April, if someone says assalamu alaikum, you say walaikum salam. I was like, okay, thank you. She always was guiding me on, what to say, or she taught me how to pray. She taught me so much. Oh my gosh, alhamdulillah. Like, I'm gonna tear up just thinking about her, because she really helped me, through my journey, learning about Islam, as well as even, throughout the journey of learning what to do. She was right there. So I'm so grateful that Allah sent her to Clemson, to help me, because she played a very big part in me knowing, what I know now. Even to this day, my husband says, may Allah bless her, because I always say, well, Kisban taught me this, or Kisban showed me this. And he's like, oh my gosh, may Allah bless her. So I don't know how much more detail you would like about the day of it, but it was just a very great experience. Like, all these emotions that I'm having, I guess, thinking about everything all together again. It's just I feel that my story is a beautiful story. I was just very blessed, to have great people around me.
Yes, thanks, April. Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful story, and I'm sure, some of the listeners out there will be shedding a tear as well, and joining into your joy. Now, you mentioned that you married very soon after you converted. So can you tell me how has it helped you? How has your husband helped you, and how has it helped you that you had a someone to help you with your Islam and to be your partner in your journey so early on?
Honestly, it's almost like after I took my Shahada, my entire life just changed, of course. And I'm not just saying that, but, having my husband, who was, he was born a Muslim, to, help guide me, like if I ever had questions about anything, and just watching him, to have a model, I guess, here with me as a revert has helped me learn different things. And even if he would do things that I wasn't sure, or if I did things that he needed to correct me, he would do so in a very kind manner, in which it would show me, the correct way to do things. So that definitely has helped me. And then, too, as I, now I am a mother too. So I have always tried to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can in order to, bring my daughter up and teach her the right right things, because even though I'm still learning too, I have to set the stage, or you know, yeah, set the stage for her learning, and to, inshallah, become a good Muslim.
Okay. And so tell me now, how do you feel you have changed since you converted?
The way to describe my change would be, um, and it's something that I have reflected on several times, like throughout the years, is that honestly, the biggest change that I've had is being more conscious about Allah, being more conscious about my Creator in everything that I do. If I find myself, you know, Allah has given us many ways to worship Him, but He has also instructed us as to what causes Him to be angry, So just thinking about the things that I do, on a daily basis, and how that is seen, from Allah's, I guess, in the eyes of Allah, or, is this right? Is this, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? That is how I will say that's the biggest change for me. It's just being conscious of Allah in everything everything that I do. Before, I didn't have this feeling, honestly, as a Christian. I did not feel the conviction that I feel, even for things that I've done, in the past. But alhamdulillah, we serve, a merciful God. But it's just, I don't know. It's just that I'm grateful for that change, because, like I said, I think about it more often, because I realize that, this life that I live in right now is just temporary. This world that I'm in is just temporary. I'm only here for a short time, and then I will have to go on, to my eternal home. And I want that home to be with, in paradise. So I want to make sure that I'm living a life that's pleasing to Allah, so that I may, enter the gates of paradise, inshallah.
Yeah.
And I feel like the only way to do that is for me to, be very conscious about Allah, always remember Him, always, remember, I guess the remembrance of Allah is really how my life has changed. It's changed my life in so many ways.
Okay. And how has your character changed, the way you deal with people?
Well, I think even before I became Muslim, I was a very, outgoing person. I feel like I was a very, kind person. I didn't really mistreat other people, I would say, in the sense of, just being outright ugly, or, malicious or anything. I did not have this intent. So, but I will say I do think about my interactions with others. So I'm very conscious about that. Like, I try to make sure that how I conduct myself, to others, is what I would want people to see, I guess, how a Muslim behave, or Muslim things that I would want want people to see a Muslim doing. So I say that to say, like, it makes me think about things like, okay, even if someone is trying to, you know, wrong me, how can I, behave in a manner that says, okay, that's fine, you know, but, and not try to be revengeful. Like, I guess my character, as far as being a pleasant and kind person. That has not really changed, but I do think about like when I'm placed in situations where I feel mistreated, how do I react to that? You know, like what message do I send by my behaviors, you know, since now that I am a Muslim. I did begin wearing my, I did begin covering, like, so I wear hijab, and that made me even more conscious about things because, you know, here in the United States, Muslims, for the most part, we probably do not have a very good, I guess, reputation, especially where I'm from in the South. So I feel like the character that I have would hopefully make people, you know, open up, not to, you know, I'm not saying you have to become a Muslim, but open up to understand that people, that Muslims are people. Like, you know, we have feelings, we are normal, and I am just as approachable, you know, as any other person, but at the same time, you have to respect me, you know, as a woman and as a human being.
Okay, and tell me some of the lifestyle changes now that Islam has given you.
The lifestyle changes. Well, of course, now I am more family oriented. I understand the value of having, you know, having time to be with my family. And I actually learned that, you know, even after the loss of my dad. But just learning to kind of manage your time to make sure that you don't just waste time doing things, and to always seek knowledge. One thing that anytime I talk to anyone, you know, a sister or I'm listening to a lecture, I feel like one thing that is always reiterated is that you have to seek knowledge. So, learn more, learn. So one thing about me that I would say that has changed is that I'm always seeking different ways to learn different things, you know, and to become better, you know, become a better worshiper for Allah, to become a better teacher, to become a better mother, you know, because no one ever learns everything, right? So that's one way that I would say has changed. And, you know, even though I, I would say that's about it.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And so I've got two more questions for you. So you mentioned the hijab and that you're wearing it. So a lot of our listeners out there are thinking about becoming Muslim, and they're doubting and having doubts and worries about this issue about wearing the hijab. What advice would you give to them about this, and how can they move forward?
Um, the advice that I would give to a sister who is, you know, thinking about becoming Muslim and then wearing hijab, I had, like, I know I keep saying this um, throughout our discussion, but I definitely had a very supportive um, group around me. And one thing that they told me is don't try to do too much too fast, because if you try to do too much too fast, you will feel overwhelmed, and then you will feel defeated, and then you'll just want to give up. So they just told me, even with hijab, just take your time, one thing at a time. So my main thing when I first converted was to learn prayer. I wanted to learn how to pray. So then with the hijab, like, after I just continued to pray about it, like, there were times where I would wear it out in public, but I did not wear it full time. So just take it upon, I would say, take it at your pace. But then too, not just your pace, ask Allah to guide you through that transition, because it definitely will be different at first, but then once you begin wearing it, you really have this sense of security, this sense of respect and modesty, and it really is a very great feeling. And I'm sure that, as long as you believe and you feel in your heart that Allah will help you through that journey, Allah does not make anything difficult for you, then even if you're in a society where maybe, wearing hijab is looked at as different, or, I'll just say different, then you'll know that even by wearing that, there's so much blessing, in store for you. So for me, I would just say take it at your pace and pray and ask Allah for guidance and for strength through the journey and the transition.
Thanks for that, April. Okay, so we're going to have to wrap it up now, and I really enjoyed the conversation we've had. So this will be the last question now. So what would be your advice to our listeners out there, those people that are thinking about becoming Muslim? What would be your best advice to them?
Well, the first thing that I would advise them is that continue to seek information, continue to research, and listen to the purpose of life I'm sorry, can you tell me his name again?
I believe it's Khalid Yasin.
Okay, yes. Listen to this. Also, as I was given the advice to just pray and ask God to guide you. If Islam is for you, then pray for guidance towards it. But if it's not, then ask God to save you from it. And if you feel you're still being led to it, then inshallah, well, I would say alhamdulillah, because Allah guides who he wills. So consider that a definite blessing, for Allah to guide you to Islam. And and then next, I guess, or final, just don't ever feel pressure to become or join any religion, because Allah has told us that religion is not, there's no compulsion in religion. Okay, so if you feel guided, then that's a blessing, but pressure to do it is not the right way. So just believe in God, pray to him, and he will definitely show you the right way.
Anything else?
No. Well, other than, I would like to say, make sure that you have some type of support group or support person of support that could help you. I know that there are groups on Facebook. If you don't know anyone personally, there are people that or maybe at your local masjid, like the imam or brothers or sisters who can help you. So just make sure you build a support system that can truly help you and help guide you once you do become Muslim, because that will definitely help you to, stay steadfast in learning more about the religion and its practices. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that, April. Thanks for coming onto the show.
No problem. It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me and inviting me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, and I found your story very inspiring, and it was a beautiful story, and I hope that our listeners out there will also find it the same way.
Inshallah.
So I'll have to leave it there, and I will send the peace and blessings of God. May that be upon you and also onto all our listeners out there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam, brother.